Have you ever wondered what really happened in Texas lands before our arrival? What did the natives whispered in their ancient languages over spirits that inhabited these arid plains? Does the lone star we adorn with such pride in our flag represents only our independence, or something much darker that it should have remained buried forever? My name is Sam Houston. I served as the governor of Tennessee. I fought alongside Andrew Jackson in the wars against the Creek, and dedicated the last years of my life to the great state of Texas. But there are things I discovered in these lands that have never seen in the history books you read. Things that the first settlers preferred to silence, that the Spanish missionaries have desperately tried to exorcise, and still today haunt the old streets of Pedra de San Antonio. Do you believe there is pure evil walking between us? What are people willing to sacrifice their own souls for power over ancestral forces they do not understand? What bloody rituals still happen in the most sacred places of our dear city? During my years exploring every corner of this republic that I helped build, I came across disturbing reports about an old cult that operates in the shadows of the City of Missions. A group that loves not the star that shakes proudly on our flag, but an ancestral entity they call La Estrella Solitaria, a force that predated any known civilization in these Texan lands. If you feel a shiver when you go through the missions, at night, if you have already noticed strange movements in the secular shadows of San Fernando Cathedral, if you have heard songs in dead languages echoing by Riverwalk, so you know that San Antonio keeps secrets that we might prefer never to know. The story I share today is not legend or folklore from mouth to mouth. It is the real testimony of a brave woman enough to speak, even knowing the terrible risks that was running. She paid the supreme price for her courage, but before leaving, she managed to leave her account so that the truth would not die with her. Prepare yourself, for today we enter dark territory. Territory where faith is corrupted in blasphemy, where the sacred is profane in macabre ritual, and where the lone star shines with red light as blood in the altars of eternal perdition. The discovery in the San Jose mission. The testimony of archaeologist Elena Rodriguez. This report was found among Dr. Elena Rodriguez's personal belongings after her mysterious disappearance in December 2021. Audio recording was discovered hidden in her office at the University of Texas in San Antonio. My name is Elena Rodriguez, and if you are listening to this recording, it means that something terrible happened to me. Over the past 3 years, I have been documenting something that should never have seen the light of day. Something that San Antonio's founders have tried to bury almost 300 years ago, but it continues to grow as an infection in the depths of this city that I love so much. It all started in September 2018, during routine excavations at Mission San Jose. Our team was working on a restoration project when one of the workers noticed that soil in a specific area sounded hollow when stepped. We decided to investigate. 3 meters deep, we discovered something that should not exist, a perfectly preserved underground chamber that was not on any known historical map. The walls were made of local limestone, but covered with strange symbols recorded in the rock. They were not Spanish hieroglyphics. They were not designs of the Native American peoples. They were completely different, older, and infinitely more disturbing. In the center of the chamber was a black stone altar stained by something that, after laboratory tests, we found to be human blood, but it was not ancient blood dried up for centuries. The analyses showed that it was less than 6 months old. Fresh blood in a chamber that was supposedly sealed for 300 years. It was then that we found the diaries, dozens of them, carefully preserved in wooden boxes lined with cloth. They were written in ancient Spanish, Latin, and English, dating from 1731 to, God help me, until last year. These diaries documented 3 centuries of continuous activity of something that was called La Hermandad de la Estrella Solitaria, the Brotherhood of the Lone Star. The oldest diary belonged to Friar Miguel Santos, a Franciscan missionary who arrived in San Antonio in 1731. His first entries described the normal routine of evangelization of local natives. But as the months passed, the tone became increasingly desperate. August 15th, the year of the Lord of 1731. The Indians speak of a star that does not belong to Christian heavens. They say they shone in these lands before the sun, before the moon, even before Adam's creation. They call it Star of Eternal Famine, and whispers still awaken when the blood of the faithful touches the earth consecrated by their presence. September 3rd, I found Pedro Vasquez, one of the most devotee settlers, performing pagan rituals behind the main chapel. I had designed a 5-pointed star with goat blood on the stone floor and murmured words on a tongue that made my ears bleed, just listening. When I confronted him in the name of Christ, his eyes glowed like hell of hell. September 20th. More settlers are being infected with this damn heresy. They gather at midnight in tunnels they have discovered under the mission and sing praises for the lonely star. It is not the Star of Bethlehem who worship, but something old and eternally hungry for human souls. I wrote urgent letters to the bishop, but fear that it is too late to stop. The friar's last entrance was written with a trembling letter, stained by what seemed to be his own tears. October 2nd. They tried to convert me tonight during prayer. They were forcibly taking me to the tunnels and showed me visions of the star coming down from the heavens, bringing forbidden knowledge that would burn the soul of any Christian. My brow egged iron before release me. But the diaries did not stop. In the 18th century, they continued through the decades, documenting the evolution of worship. During the age of the Republic of Texas, we found the entrances of American settlers who discovered the house and joined the rituals. In the Civil War, Confederate soldiers deserted to serve the star. In the 20th century, prominent entrepreneurs, politicians, and even Catholic priests documented their conversion to what they called the true faith of Texas. The latest diary was the one that terrified me the most. Written by someone who identified himself only as a red light servant, dated January 2021. The Lone Star Wake Up Again. 3 centuries of faithful worship finally bears fruit. The signs are all over San Antonio to those who know how to look. The red lights that dance on midnight missions. The shadows that move independently in the catacombs of the cathedral. Physical. And when this happens, San Antonio will be just the beginning. I tried to take the diaries to my supervisor at the university, but the next morning, they had mysteriously disappeared from the secure safe from the laboratory. When I returned to the archaeological site to take more photographs, the camera had been sealed with fresh concrete. Officially, we never found anything but some colonial ceramic fragments. But I knew what I had seen. And I knew I couldn't just forget. I started my own private investigation. For months, I walked through the streets of San Antonio at night, looking for signs of worship activity. I observed strange patterns. Certain people always disappeared from their homes at the same time, always on the new moon. Certain historical properties had red lights flashing on windows that should be empty. Certain sounds echoed from manholes and service tunnels, sounds that were not running water or urban animals. In March 2019, I finally managed to follow them. It was a midnight Tuesday when I saw a group of 15 people walking silently towards the main entrance of Mission San Jose. They wore normal clothes suits, casual dresses, clothes that any respectable resident of San Antonio dress. But they moved with a sinister purpose, as if they were attracted to an invisible force. Follow them, keeping distance safe. They circumvented the mission to an area that I knew well, exactly where we had found the sealed chamber. To my perplexity, an opening had resurfaced on Earth, as if the rock itself had opened on its own will. One by one, the figures went down the opening. I waited a few minutes before approaching. From the bottom of the earth, I began to hear songs. It was not Latin of Catholic Mass, nor Spanish, nor English. It was something much older and guttural, words that seemed to make their own stones vibrate in sickly harmony. I went down the opening with my flashlight. The camera was no longer empty. It was decorated like a temple. Red candles spread everywhere, ornate rugs covering the stone floor, and the central altar now adorned with gold and precious stones that shone like eyes in the darkness. The 15 people were kneeling in a circle around the altar. In the center, a young woman lay her still, not dead, but apparently in deep trance. Above her, something that challenged any rational explanation. A 5-pointed star made of pure red light floated in the air, pulsing like a gigantic heart. The songs increased in intensity. The words seemed to have physical substance, creating heat waves that distorted the air around me. The light star began to spin slowly, and with each rotation, its red brightness intensified. It was then that the woman on the altar opened her eyes, but they were no longer human eyes. They were 2 miniature stars, shining with the same red light that dominated the chamber. She sat gracefully and looked straight at me, even though I was hidden in the shadows. "Welcome, Dr. Elena Rodriguez," he said in a voice that echoed from every corner of the camera simultaneously. "We were waiting for you to finally join us." All 15 figures turned toward me. I recognized some of them. The history teacher of the university he admired for years, the owner of the bookstore where he bought my books, the church priest who had frequented since he was a child. Normal, respectable people who now looked at me with eyes that shone with supernatural light. "You sought the truth about San Antonio," continued the altar woman. "Let us show you the whole truth." Images began to flood my mind. I saw the real story of the city, how the star had reached the lands of Texas millennia before the first humans, as this specific place had chosen as its anchor point in the physical world, as had whispered promises of power and knowledge for each generation he found. I saw the Spanish conquerors, not as Christian evangelists, but as secret star servants, who built the missions as disguised temples. I saw the Texas Revolution, not as a struggle for independence, but as a massive blood ritual to strengthen the presence of the entity. I saw the Texas flag itself, the lonely star not as a symbol of freedom, but as a mark of ancestral domination. "San Antonio is just the beginning," his voice whispered in my mind. "Through this city the star will spread all over Texas, and Texas around the world. A new era of true worship will finally begin." I managed to break the trance and run. I ran through San Antonio's empty streets like a crazy, without looking back. When I finally got home, I was dawn. I tried to convince myself that it had been a nightmare. But there was a red land in my shoes, and the sulfur smell impregnated in my clothes. In the following days, I began to notice that it was being observed. Cars that followed me discreetly. Figures stopped at the corners near my house. Silent phone calls at midnight. And always, the sound of those songs echoing in my mind. I tried to go to the police, but how to explain something so impossible? I tried to talk to other archaeologists, but they started looking at me like I'm having a nervous collapse. The university itself suggested that I take a medical license to deal with stress. It was then that I decided to document everything you had discovered. If something happened to me, at least the truth would survive. I hid recordings, photographs, and copies of diaries in safe places around the city. I wrote detailed letters to journalists, historians, and authorities who may have the courage to investigate. But I know my time is over. Last night, I found a 5-pointed star burned in the grass of my backyard. It is the final signal. They come to pick me up tonight. If you are listening to this, please do not ignore my warning. The cult of the Lone Star is not an old story. It is a present and growing threat. They have infiltrated all areas of San Antonio's society: government, church, education, business. They are preparing something terrible for the city's 3-year anniversary in 2031. Do not trust anyone who displays signs of the star. Do not follow red lights at night. Do not listen to the whispers that come from the manholes and tunnels. And above all, do not look for the house under Mission San Jose. Some knowledge is too dangerous to be discovered. May God protect San Antonio. May God protect Texas. And may God forgive us all because we have not prevented this while it was still possible. End of recording. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was reported missing on December 15, 2021. No trace of her was found, but a 5-pointed star was discovered permanently on the floor of her university office. Final reflection. And so the testimony of the courageous Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a woman who paid the supreme price for seeking the truth in the dark depths of San Antonio. Her disappearance remains an official mystery, but those of us who know reality, we know she has become another victim of the ancestral worship that infects our beloved city. As a veteran of the indigenous wars and founder of this great republic, I saw my portion of horrors, but nothing prepared me to find that true evil was not coming from outside, but it grew like cancer in the very heart of Texas. The lonely star who proudly on our flag can represent our political independence, but there is another lonely star, older, more hungry, more terrible, which has been marking his presence in these lands with blood and suffering for centuries. May this account serve as a warning to the future generations of Texans. Not every tradition deserves to be preserved. Not every story deserves to be celebrated, and not every star that shines in the night sky desires our good. Watch San Antonio. Watch your families. And always remember that some battles by Texas's soul are still being fought in the shadows. If these words touched your soul and aroused your courage to face the hidden truths of our history, subscribe to this channel to continue discovering the dark secrets that shaped Texas. Together, perhaps we can shed enough light to dispel the darkness that has so long involved our homeland. May God bless Texas, and may it protect us from all the stars that shine with light that is not yours.